Great. Larry, you want to come up and introduce our program? Sure.
Those of you that were here last spring sometime, we had a presentation about some of the street projects and so forth that are going on in the city of Lacey. And today, we're going to follow that up with another presentation that's going to talk to us about a bond measure that's coming up that's going to pay for all of that type of thing. So we're going to be asked to vote on a 0.2% sales tax increase to fund these overlays and the reconstruction of roads in the city of Lacey. The vote will be held in February, on February 14th. And presenter is Roger Schoessel. And he's going to provide information on why the additional revenue is needed and how it's going to be used. Let me tell you a little bit about Roger. He's our Lacey City engineer. He had a United States Army career spanning 20 years as a military engineer. During his time in the service, he spent approximately 9 years overseas. His work included various infrastructure projects and disaster responses. Upon retiring from Fort Lewis, he became the city engineer for Lacey and has held this position for the last 17 years. He holds both bachelor's and master's degrees in engineering and licensed engineer, not only in Washington, but also in the state of Virginia. He brought with him also Public Works Director from Lacey, who is Scott Egger. His career in public works spans over 34 years. He's worked in the private and public sectors in the design, construction, operations, and maintenance of public works infrastructure. He was hired by the city of Lacey over 9 years ago as the Public Works Director. Prior to that, Scott worked for Morrison Knudsen in Spokane County and the city of Spokane. He's a licensed engineer and alumni of Gonzaga. So let's welcome Roger Schoessel.
Oops, go back a couple. Well, thanks Larry for the introduction. I'm going to start off with a question. Kim Balsley has seen this presentation 5 times. Today is his 5th presentation. So my question is, do you want Ken to come up and give his presentation? Or would you like me to do it for you? No, okay, well, I had to ask Ken. He's well versed in this. I told him there's a spelling error somewhere in this that he's got to find for me. So he'll at least be focused on the presentation again. Well, again, thanks for the opportunity to come in and discuss this transportation benefit district with you. It's a big deal for the city. It's a little atypical for the city. We normally don't actually ask for these kind of sales tax increases, and that's really what this is, and that's what I'm going to go into the details and a little bit about why it's necessary. As Larry mentioned, the voting day is February the 14th, 2017, and we hope you vote. Either way, again, I have to, as a staff member for the city, I have to put in a disclaimer. I'm not here to try to market this. I'm just here to present the facts and allow you to make your own decisions. So information is power, and that's what I'm about today. We've had a long history with the Transportation Benefit District. A TBD, as it's commonly referred to, was actually a program established by the state about 10 years ago, and it's gone through some evolution since then. But what it allowed cities and counties to do is to create a revenue stream for pavement, repair and maintenance, and sidewalks too. The emphasis for this is that there's really no revenue stream. Counties have a revenue stream for road repair and maintenance, but cities really don't. So you really rely on your sales tax from your general fund to manage your pavement preservation, as we call it. But the council put a lot of time and effort into this. If you look at you can see, and it's not an eye chart. Trust me, Ken's read it closely. The staff report that's on the right side of the screen. The council met literally over 14 times to discuss the Transportation Benefit District and the implications of it, starting way back in 2010. And it's slowly evolved to this point where in January of this year, they actually created the Transportation Benefit District. That's step one. And our council is the overseers of the TBD. The next step is the consideration of how to fund it. And I'm going to go into the details of that in a little bit. Here's a little bit about Lacey as a whole. I think everyone's aware Lacey's about 16 square miles of inside the city limits, and this is what the Transportation Benefit District is, the city limits of Lacey. Our infrastructure, if we had to fix it today, it'd be about $400 million. That kind of gives you a ballpark figure. Roadway, we have 164 centerline miles, and in our world, we actually break it into lane miles because some streets are 2 lanes, some are 3 lanes, and some of them are up to 5 lanes. And so the number in lane miles that we normally focus on is a 379 number because that's really what we are responsible for care and maintenance of. And the last but not least is the Pavement Condition Index. That's a PCI. And the Pavement Condition Index for Lacey is probably one of the largest or greatest in the state. We're almost 85. And that's on a scale of 0, meaning there used to be a road there, to 100, which is basically a brand new road that was just literally finished. So we're at 85, and that's actually a great place to be because an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure when you're in the road repair business. And a lot of this had to do with the history, and Greg's here, and he's going to get all red in the face when I tell him when he was city manager, we actually started a pavement preservation program in earnest way back in 2000, and it gained a lot of impetus. And we were fortunate at the time the city was growing, and we had funding that we could set aside about $1 million to a year that we put into pavement preservation, and we literally rebuilt about 1/3 of the city in that time frame. Not only with just the monies that we set aside for pavement repair, but also with funding that we'd received through grant dollars on actual road widening and safety enhancements that we normally do. So a little bit about what it costs in pavement. Not a lot of folks really care about pavement unless they hit a pothole, lose a handicap, or damage your car. But pavement's very expensive. It's a very, very expensive business. To go in and this goes back to an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If you go in and just work on an overlay, if we just went in and just did an overlay on, let's say, a residential street, which is typical of 3-inch thick hot mix asphalt overlay, it's about $31 a square yard to go down on the ground. So think about that. 1 square yard, $31. But if we let it degrade or we allow it to get to the point that it's substantially damaged, you can actually go all the way down to almost $100 a square yard to fix the road. And that's what we try to avoid at all costs. That's a factor, if you just want something to take away from this, it's a factor of 3 to 1. I could spend $1 million up front trying to take care of it, or I could spend $3 million doing the damage control on it. And again, that's our mission in life at the City of Lacey and my staff, is to try to head off trouble before we start getting into those $67 and $78 ranges, and the 94, which is really, really significantly degraded. So a little bit about the revenue options. With the Transportation Benefit District, and again, this isn't a fact sheet, feel free to take the fact sheet with you and use it as afterwards. There is a car tab fee option. That's $20 a car tab fee that the council can actually approve with pretty much with just a hearing and an ordinance. They could create that. What it would do for the city, for the folks within the city, would generate about $675,000 a year in pavement preservation. The other option would be a sales tax, a 0.2% sales tax increase. What it would do is it would generate between $1.6 and $1.8 million a year for pavement preservation. But it requires a vote of the people. The reason the money, as you can see, there's a kind of a drastic difference between $675,000 a year and the $1.6 million is that this is a sales tax. And we have a lot of folks that use the roads and streets in the city, that come in and purchase goods in town and of course pay a sales tax on it. So that's why we're casting a wider net with the sales tax. The council, this is one of the considerations the council looked at and thought about in the process of going to the vote with the people. This is another consideration. One of the things the council asked us to do a couple years ago as this TBD started gaining traction is that to take a look at what it would do for a typical family in the city as far as cost goes. If we did the vehicle tab fee, and I'm going to start at the bottom and work up, a typical family in the city of Lacey owns 2 cars, $20 per car, so it would cost them about $40 a year. But if we went with the sales tax, and again we cast a wider net with a sales tax increase, you can see on an income range between $50,000 and $60,000 a year, the impact's about $25. So the council said we're going to put it on the ballot. We're going to let the people of Lacey decide this. A little bit about sales tax in Lacey, and if I'm preaching to the choir, I'll just go to the next slide. Ken, what do you think? Should I just go on?
Yeah, you guys tell them.
Okay, I will. Thanks, Ken. Thanks. We currently collect 8.7% on a dollar, but this is really how it's broken out. And starting on the right side, moving left, about 6.5 cents goes to the state. 1.2% goes to local sales tax options, and I have them itemized on the next slide. 0.15% goes to the county, and then 0.85 cents goes to the city. So that's right now that 8.5 or 8.7% we collect, 0.85 goes to us. Here's a kind of comparison of sales tax, and you can see the local sales tax options are in the middle. But Olympia, a little higher than us. They have a public safety tax that they put in place a couple years ago. Tumwater is already at 8.9%. Last year about this time, Tumwater did the same thing that we would like to do. They put a vote out, or a ballot out, measure out, for the citizens to vote on the same thing, a transportation benefit district for the city of Tumwater, and it was approved. So they're at 8.9% now. Now we're going to get to the fun stuff. This is what I do for a living. So somebody time me. What time is it? 1? What time? How long? I'm sorry, Larry. How long did you give?
You got
an hour and a half? Okay, great.
Another, you got another 15.
At least 15. Oh, thanks, Larry. We have actually, we publish every year. I have a staff member that goes out and evaluates all the streets every year. He looks at every street in the city, as we mentioned earlier, the 165 centerline miles worth. And we publish it in a report. And I actually have a copy of the report. This is it. We publish this annually. And every street in the city and segment of this is in here as far as what its status is and condition of the road. It's also on the city's website, so if you're really interested. Normally if I put these on the table, everybody would just be tearing them apart right now looking for their streets, so I won't do that. I only brought one. But it's generated with a massive database that we use called Street Saver, and it allows us to program pavement preservation and pavement repair. And with that, we can actually kind of get an idea of the cost to do the business too. So it's a very powerful tool that we use. One of the things it ultimately leads to is this pavement index score. And you can see we have a little bump up this year in 2016, and that was over how some of the doctrinal definitions of raveling. And I know you all don't care about raveling unless it causes you to lose a hubcap or damage a car. But they changed the standard on it, which actually in the algorithm allowed us a couple more points as far as improvement. But this is what we like to hold. I think that it's only one other city in the state that is probably on par with us as far as pavement condition. That's Kennewick. I think Kennewick runs about the same, about 86 in their PCI. So we're really, it's a privilege for us to kind of keep this at 85. I mean, we work very hard, our staff on this to keep it up there. Anybody know about what Tacoma is? Anybody want to guess what Tacoma's pavement index is? 40. Close. It's actually, I think it's about 56. 56. So I know. In Olympia, I think Olympia is about 68. I think it's where they're at. I would never brag on my sister city there. But to give you an idea of some of the pavement condition indexes here, the Ruttle Road in the upper left, that's 92. Right now, if you recall, we rebuilt it for about $2.5 million 3 years ago, and 92 is what it's running right now. Willamette Drive, the one on the right, pavement condition is about 70. And it gives you an idea. You can start seeing that there's some structural degradation going on in the asphalt. Probably this upgrade is starting to break up, judging by the amount of crack seal that we do. And crack seal is all part of our pavement preservation. It's not pretty. It's not aesthetically pretty, but it does seal the road up and buys time. So that's why we use it quite a bit. But that's a 70. And then Carpenter Road, down beyond the fairgrounds, it's running about a 30. Right now, we're about $1 million is what it would cost us to fix this section of Carpenter Road. And it gets to the point where I have to make decisions on, do I go out and try to fix a segment of Carpenter Road, or I try to spread $1 million over other jobs that I can actually kind of head off damage on. So anyway, this gives you an idea of what it takes. And again, it goes back to the cost analysis. Willamette, I can spend $1 million on it to fix it. Carpenter Road, it's a factor of 3. It's going to be $3 million. And that just kind of give you an idea of the ratios. Also, what we use this money for, or tend to use this money for, is sidewalk repair. Lacey's got a lot of trees. It's Tree City, USA. We have a lot of sidewalks and planter strips. And sometimes they cooperate, sometimes they don't. We actually have a staff in the shop, our shop, that grinds and maintains sidewalks. And as you can see, it gets to the point in some cases where we just have to pull the sidewalk panels out and fix the underlying problems and then re-pour concrete. So this will be all part of the funding too. Are there any questions? I'd be glad to take a shot at.
Can you go back to the slide where it shows where the 8.7% was distributed?
Sure.
Yeah, I told you they didn't know.
This one?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So how much does the city get out of all of that, out of that 8.7?
0.85. It's the one that's actually with the yellow rectangle around it.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what our walk away is with. And again, with the TBD, that's dedicated money. That money will only go to pavement preservation, pavement repair, and sidewalk maintenance. That's what it's set aside for. That's why it's a transportation benefit district.
So how come that doesn't add up to 8.7? Or doesn't?
It should. If it doesn't, I'm going to have to talk to the city manager.
Okay, so 0.15 goes to the county's 0.85. In addition to the 1.2.
Yes, correct.
And the 1.2 doesn't go to the city. None of that goes to the city.
No, in fact, this slide actually, the 1.2 is, if you look in the middle section, the local option sales tax, that's your 1.2. As you can see, it's broken out with intercity transit, the criminal justice, detention facilities, 911. Yes, sir.
Is there coordination or cooperation between the divisions in the city, the one that plants trees and one that does sidewalks? Well, I mean...
No. John, that's a very valid question. We've learned a lot about trees and sidewalks over the years, a whole lot. Trees nowadays are planted with barrier systems that adjacent to them in the sidewalk. The barriers are about 24 inches deep to force the roots to go down. When originally the city in the 90s, when they elected to go with like tree planter strips, they didn't have the barrier systems. So that's where we're kind of paying for some of our mistakes early on. Some trees never affect the sidewalk, and other trees, and I don't know. I don't know what the science is behind it. The tree will just totally lift the sidewalk within a couple of years of being planted. And others, they'll live together, peacefully for 100 years, and you don't have this kind of problem. So I can't predict it. Unfortunately, I'm not an arborist, but I spend way too much time with an arborist. And another thing about my job is, unfortunately, I know too much about trees. I really do, and landscaping. I know, you're thinking like I should be paid to focus on streets, but I get paid to focus on plants too. Yes, sir.
So this is about a 25% increase from the 0.85 to, you get an additional 0.2, correct?
No, it would be.
So where does that .2 go? It all doesn't come back to the city?
Yes, the .2 is solely for the Transportation Benefit District.
So right now, you do some transportation out of the 85, the .85.
Yes, what we used
So
to do.
here's my question.
Yes,
Yeah,
go ahead.
but here's my question. So is that going to be dedicated to transportation, or can the city fathers use it for something else?
It's by ordinance, it only goes to pavement preservation and sidewalk preservation.
Well, that's not quite accurate. They have to have a specific plan for how they're gonna use their money. For the board. And they've said that they're gonna use it for road maintenance and sidewalks. That doesn't mean that they can't add some other projects to that, but it all have to be transportation related. They can't put that in the general fund.
Yep.
It has to go for transportation projects.
Yes, ma'am.
So, money's fungible, right? Do you anticipate the city taking some of the funding from the 85 cents you're currently getting away from transportation to get to something else?
Yes, actually, what's happened is since the recession, sales tax decreased, and we actually cut the pavement preservation program out of the budget last year. The set aside, we just had to put the money elsewhere. It had to go to law enforcement, to salaries, and it had to go away. And that's why we've been actually, with the council, looking at this since 2010, trying to see if we could keep, our revenue stream with just using our sales tax, if it was viable enough that we could keep pavement preservation going. But we're at the point that we're just not, we can't do it any longer. So we have no. 2014 was the last year I actually had a pavement preservation program, and I broke the $1 million in half. I spent half of it in 2014, the other half in 2015. I carried it over, but that was it. There's not even a line for it this year in the budget.
So in other words, what I'm hearing, if it ever came back to where you would get another $1 million from that general fund, you would not.
That's
This is going
correct.
to be the only money used for pavement.
Exactly. Yeah, that's unfortunately just the cost of doing business at city level. Somebody's going to be a bill payer, and payment, unfortunately, can be a bill payer. Payment and sidewalks can be a bill payer. Yes, sir.
Now, I remember you gave a program on the College Avenue.
Yes, sir.
Is that going to be part of this, or that's already funded?
No, the college corridor is funded through like federal transportation grants. That's the only way we can match it. It's like $35 million worth of work out there, and the way we do it is we basically go after what we call surface transportation program dollars in increments. And if you recall, maybe in the College Street corridor project, I said we have to do it in like pieces, like there's 7 segments to the college corridor. And the reason is we just can't afford anything beyond about $5-7 million to do it at a time, because that's about the amount of money we can get through transportation grant dollars. Yes, sir. And then I'll get to you, Ken.
What was the previous overlay budget?
It was $1 million, $1.3 million is what it averaged. Yes.
So this is looking at not an increase but a replacement.
It is.
In your mind?
Right now, it would, if it's an ideal world, I need about $4 million a year for pavement preservation. And the way we've managed to do that before is it goes back to what the other gentleman just asked, is we go after grant dollars to do road widening projects. So for example, Hogan Bay Road, we're gonna rebuild Hogan Bay Road in the northeast here starting this spring. That's a $7.2 million just in construction. That's what that costs. So I have 4 grants that are packaged up to build that. In that, literally, is about $2 million worth of asphalt work. So what I'm doing is I'm widening roads, I'm doing safety and shoulder improvements, and I'm getting grant dollars to do that. And then I have the pavement preservation on the other side. So it's a big juggle. Some years we're really successful, and some years, we're fairly lean.
I'll save my question.
Please. No, you want to save it?
Nope.
We got time, Ken.
Next time I get a presentation, I'll ask.
Well, that'll be number 6, Ken. Any more questions? Like I said, I'll be glad to stick around and answer. Yes, sir.
Carpenter Road, after leaving the highway, zigzag, there are a couple of intersections where somebody's going to be killed there. The fellows that are headed for your car going 50 miles an hour so they can slide around you or something. And at the top of the hill, you have to make some decisions, stay alive or wander up above, I guess.
So you're referring to where Carpenter Road meets Britton Parkway on the north side of I-5, correct? Where you have that really hard grade? Unfortunately, that piece was in the county. And I have a little history here, so I'll go ahead. Y'all have 5 minutes. You asked. When we built Britton Parkway, we actually cut that road section down 28 feet. And I tried to get the county engineer to go in with me and cut it even further to kind of flatten that out. And he said, I just don't have the money, I can't help you with it. And I said, well, I'm up against our budget too. But we actually took 28 feet out of that thing to try to get it to where it is today. But I understand your point, really. One of these days, there will be a signalized intersection there.
Dead or alive?
One last question, we take it to heaven.
How long do you think that you can be on the budget that you're proposing before you have to increase it for the next level?
Well, first of all, that is the ceiling. 0.2% is it. There's nothing beyond that. We don't have that option. The Transportation Benefit District, when it's taken to the public for a vote, it's got a 10-year design life on it, and then it's done, and it has to be revoted again. But right now, it's at 0.2. We're asking for the maximum limit on it.
And will you be around to answer?
Yes,
There were
I'll
a
be-
couple of other hands out there that people want to grab you. So we're going to donate a book to the South Sound Reading Foundation on your behalf. And I got lucky. The title of this book is Go Dog Go. Please sign it.
Thank you.